That's crucial information in this racket. It's not information you give out freely. You know, if Pissa Paul asks me where I got the bite, because he's out here too, I'll tell him I got it on a banana at 75 fathoms.
And we're only fishing in 45.
When Wicked Tuna disappeared from television, it left two things behind: a disappointed fan base and a question that was never fully answered. The network simply moved on as the cameras stopped rolling, but the speculation never faded. Now, Dave Marciano has uncovered the real reason the show came to an end. What did Dave see that everyone else missed? And why was the real answer never made public? Join us as we unveil the real reasons Wicked Tuna ended. The boat that started it all. Wicked Tuna premiered on National Geographic in April 2012 with a very simple idea: a group of fishermen from Gloucester, Massachusetts, competing to catch giant bluefin tuna. If they caught nothing, they earned nothing. So every trip could mean either a payday worth thousands of dollars or a day spent burning fuel for nothing. Dave Marciano was one of the original captains, running a boat called the Hard Merchandise. But what many people didn't know about this expert fisherman was that he didn't even come from a fishing family, and nobody handed him a boat. He started out on his own, working on boats when he was just 12 years old, and spent decades on the docks before anyone in television ever noticed him. When the idea for Wicked Tuna crystallized and producers finally came looking for captains, other fishermen kept saying Dave's name. That's how he ended up on TV in the first place. Dave has said before that he only took the job for the money at first, and that he never expected he would still be running the boat more than a decade later. But he did. The show ran for 13 seasons with over 200 episodes, and it even had a spin-off, Wicked Tuna, Outer Banks, which ran 8 more seasons down in North Carolina, following a new group of captains chasing the same fish along a different stretch of coastline. The show made Dave Marciano a local celebrity. Riding on that fame, he opened a shop right on Gloucester Harbor called Angelica Seafoods, where he sold fish straight out of his own boat, along with t-shirts and other merchandise with his own catchphrases printed on them. It didn't take long before tourists started showing up in Gloucester, just hoping to catch a glimpse of him or one of the other captains walking the docks. The fame had a serious impact on Gloucester itself. As a small fishing town that had spent years fighting to stay afloat, it meant real money coming in. By every indication, Wicked Tuna was a hit show. But underneath all that success, something darker was happening that most fans never fully connected to the ending. 2 people close to the show would eventually suffer an irreversible tragedy, and the network did something unexpected both times. The show eventually hit a major obstacle, and much to the chagrin of many fans, it couldn't overcome it. Success like that rarely survives untouched, and this one ended almost overnight. The day it all ended, August 16th, 2024, was the day National Geographic dropped the bombshell. The network told Variety magazine that Wicked Tuna was done. 13 seasons, over 200 episodes, finished. Just like that. On the surface, the statement sounded nice since they thanked the cast and appreciated the crew. They called it an incredible journey. But that was all. They gave no explanation as to why they chose not to renew the show. All they gave was a polite goodbye and nothing else. And it's no secret that that kind of silence makes people ask questions. What's more shocking is that according to the Boston Globe, even the captains had no warning at all. They didn't want the show to end, and they still don't fully understand why it did. The men who had spent over a decade of their lives filming this show found out it was over the same way everyone else did, by reading the news. Dave gave a rather gracious response in public. He posted online, thanking the fans and the people who made the show. He called it the opportunity of a lifetime. Even though he, like other captains, was disappointed, he didn't complain about it. He even told fans to keep following along on his own channel, as if he already knew the network wasn't going to give them any real closure. But when a reporter from the Boston Globe actually got him on the phone, Dave admitted something different. He said the cancellation made no sense. The show's ratings hadn't collapsed, he argued, and the only explanation that seemed to fit was that another company had acquired National Geographic a few years earlier. Both things were true at the same time. Dave was indeed grateful for everything the show gave him, and he genuinely didn't understand why they had to take it away like that. That gap between the polite thank you online and the honest confusion on the phone says a lot about what was really going on behind the scenes. National Geographic isn't really an independent channel, at least not anymore. In 2019, Disney bought a huge chunk of entertainment companies, including the one that owned Nat Geo. And since then, Nat Geo has just been one small piece of a much bigger business. And the truth is that business has been struggling. It's not really a surprise that cable television is losing viewers every year. Streaming services cost a whole lot of money to run, and Disney's regular TV channels, everything outside of Disney Plus, have been losing money for years. The company had to keep itself afloat somehow, so it started cutting shows. Disney didn't do it all at once. They cut one show at a time, until people looked up one day and realized half their favorites are gone. Interestingly, Wicked Tuna wasn't the only show this happened to. Around the same time, Nat Geo Wild canceled The Incredible Dr. Pol after 24 seasons, almost without saying a word. A spin-off of Life Below Zero got canceled too. One of the stars from that show said the cast didn't understand it either. The show had been doing well. She said it seemed to come down to a new executive who just wanted to shake things up. Taken together, it's easy to see this isn't a mere coincidence. Big, popular shows with loyal fans, all under the same company, all canceled around the same time, all with barely any explanation. It's easy to imagine executives sitting in a room somewhere, going down a list of shows, crossing off names based on cost alone, with almost no thought given to the fans who had spent years watching, or to the towns and families whose lives were built around those shows. Dave had a theory of his own, and it went deeper than money. Dave Marciano's explanation. Dave Marciano seems to have figured this out on his own. He told the Boston Globe the only thing that made sense to him was that Disney now owned the network. There was nothing creative about the cancellation. It was just a business decision made somewhere far away from Gloucester, by people who probably never watched a single full episode. Although nobody at Disney has ever come out and said the cancellation was only about money, nor to say anything about the cancellation at all. When fans realized the sale of National Geographic, it was easy for them to piece information together. When a company cuts several hit shows off the same channel in the same year without ever explaining why, the boring money explanation usually turns out to be true. Still, that doesn't fully explain why Wicked Tuna, out of everything on the schedule, never got a second chance. Dave gave the Boston Globe a second theory, and this one wasn't about budgets at all. He said he thought the show might have gotten a little too spicy for Disney's taste. His choice of words may have seemed odd at the time, but looking at it closely, it means more than it sounds like, because Dave's own history backs it up. Back in January 2015, he was arrested in North Carolina. According to the police report, he pulled a hotel clerk's ponytail while acting flirty and appearing drunk. There were no immediate charges, though. Dave was let go with a written promise to show up in court later. At the time, it was a small, forgettable headline buried under other entertainment news. But it's exactly the kind of story a company like Disney remembers years later when deciding who's worth the risk. Wicked Tuna was never a clean, polished show to begin with. It was built on real arguments between grown men fighting over fishing spots and money. There were real tempers on the show, and some language that didn't always sound family-friendly. And now, there was one arrest tied to its biggest star, tucked away in the public record. Frankly, that doesn't exactly match the safe, family-friendly image Disney likes to protect across all its other shows and movies. There's also the fact that Dave has never hidden his opinions, especially about offshore wind farms being built near his own fishing waters. He has called the whole idea ill-conceived in past interviews, and he hasn't been quiet about it on social media either. Anyone who knows coastal Massachusetts knows that's a touchy subject, and people are genuinely split on the issue. A lot of big companies have poured money into the area supporting those same wind projects. So, having its most famous star publicly fighting against a type of energy project a giant company might actually support, on top of an old arrest already sitting out there in public records, gives Disney exactly the kind of reason it needs when deciding which shows to cut first. Although that explanation seems likely, many people still insist that the most provable explanation is still the simple one. Disney was cutting costs across the board. But a show sitting right on the edge is a lot easier to cancel when its loudest star already comes with a police record and strong opinions the company would rather not be associated with. But none of that compares to what the show never talked about at all. The deaths nobody talks about. There's a part of this story that almost never gets brought up next to the cancellation, and once you know it, the ending hits differently. Back in July 2018, a young fisherman named Nicholas Duffy Fudge died suddenly. He was only 28 years old. Duffy was a fan favorite, working as first mate on Captain Tyler McLaughlin's boat, the Pinwheel. He had grown up fishing with his own father and grandfather, and by the time he landed on Wicked Tuna, he was already known as one of the best young sport fishermen in the country. A few months before he passed away, Duffy had been arrested for drunk driving in New Hampshire, and that case was reportedly still open when he died. National Geographic released a short statement calling it an untimely loss. National Geographic held a moment of silence through Wicked Tuna on social media, and that was basically it. Fans never got a real answer, and to this day, nobody outside his family knows exactly what happened to him. Then, in March 2024, just a few months before the whole show got canceled, tragedy struck again. Charlie Griffin, a beloved captain from the Outer Banks spin-off, died in a boating accident near Oregon Inlet, North Carolina. His dog died with him. The Coast Guard searched for 41 hours, covering hundreds of miles by air, sea, and land, before finding his body about 2 miles from shore. But while Griff was found, a second person on that boat, a man named Chad Dunn, was never found at all, and the search for him had to be called off. The only thing National Geographic said was that the accident had nothing to do with the show, but it's quite hard to ignore the timing. The Wicked Tuna family lost one of its own just months before losing the entire show, and barely anyone connected the two. 2 men who helped build the show were gone. Both deaths happened years apart, and in both cases, the network barely said anything about what happened. Fans were left to piece things together on their own, trading theories in comment sections and fishing forums, while National Geographic moved on to the next episode like nothing had changed. So when Wicked Tuna finally ended in near total silence, it wasn't really the first time. It was the third. Whatever the real reason was, one thing is certain: the fans never bought it. Fans didn't take it well. Wicked Tuna wasn't struggling by any means. From the moment it was canceled, several news outlets picked up the story. All of them pointed out that the show was still pulling strong numbers for Nat Geo. Some even called it the network's highest-rated show at the exact time it got canceled. So the cancellation just didn't make any sense. Fans were furious when the news broke, and understandably so. One fan went online and called it one of the worst decisions the network had made in years. Another said there was no reason left to even keep the channel anymore. But not everyone was upset about the ending. Some longtime viewers, especially on fishing forums, made a fair point. These viewers believed that after 13 seasons and over 200 episodes, maybe there just wasn't much left to show that hadn't already been shown. Although that's a reasonable opinion and is worth taking seriously, it's not the reason Disney actually gave. The network never said the show had gotten old or boring. It said nothing at all, and that's the reason many fans were dissatisfied. It's one thing to lose a show because people stopped caring, but losing a show that was still winning, canceled for reasons nobody involved was ever told, from a network with a habit of staying quiet at the exact moments people needed answers, is something else entirely. That anger only fed a question fans had been asking for years. How real was the reality TV show? There's another thread running through this story that fans have argued about for years, long before the cancellation ever happened. How much of Wicked Tuna was actually real? Dave Marciano himself has weighed in on this before, and he never pretended the show was a pure, untouched documentary. In one interview, fellow captain Tyler McLaughlin put it quite plainly. He said, "Producers handed the crews a rough plot line to follow, even though nothing is written word for word." Dave's own description of himself fits right into that idea. He said he had a reputation for saying what he wanted, which is exactly the kind of personality producers looked for when they need a show to generate conflict on command. But fans refused to believe it was that simple. Viewers watching the Outer Banks spin-off directly accused the producers of manufacturing a dockside scuffle between two captains purely for the cameras. They pointed out online that the same fishermen were immediately friendly the moment filming stopped. That doesn't mean the fishing itself was staged, though. The captains are real commercial fishermen. The fish are real. And the money on the line each season is real too. But like almost every reality show built around a real profession, Wicked Tuna leaned on editing tricks, suggested storylines, and a cast willing to let their rougher edges show on camera to keep things interesting. The unfortunate part is that this same format was precisely the kind Disney's newer brand identity had less patience for. And it adds one more reason the show may have looked like more trouble than it was worth once the budget conversation started. For the town of Gloucester, losing Wicked Tuna went beyond just losing a TV show. The town lost years of tourists who came just to see the boats they recognized from the show, walking the same docks, hoping to spot a familiar face. The show had given Gloucester a reason to feel proud of an industry that had been struggling for decades, long before any camera crew ever showed up. Dave Marciano, for his part, had already built something that didn't depend on the network bringing the show back. His shop, Angelica Seafoods, still sells fish straight off his own boat, next to shelves of merchandise still built around his own catchphrases. He has pointed his fans toward his own YouTube channel so they can keep following the boats now that the TV show is over. Unlike Duffy and Griff, Dave got to walk away on his own terms. Since the show ended, he has mostly kept fishing, without chasing a comeback or waiting around for an apology that was probably never coming anyway. He still goes out on the water most days, the same way he did long before Wicked Tuna ever existed. The rest of the captains scattered the way most reality casts do once the checks stop coming. Some went back to fishing full-time with no interest in cameras again. Others still get recognized on the docks by tourists who drove up just hoping to see a face from the show. That simple gesture is still proof that whatever else happened behind the scenes, the audience never actually left. Gloucester itself kept going too. The way fishing towns always have, tuna season after tuna season, long before National Geographic ever showed up and long after it walked away. Even now, nobody at Disney has given fans a real explanation, and at this point, it seems safe to say they never intended to. Dave Marciano never got the ending he was owed, just a thank you note and a theory he had to piece together himself. What he does have is a boat that still leaves the dock most mornings, and a business that never needed National Geographic's permission to keep going. If Wicked Tuna returned to the screens, would you tune in to watch? And will the 2 mysterious deaths on the show ever be solved? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.